go. So most of my videos up until now have been like location specific, whether I've been talking about living in Mexico City, cost of living, or traveling around Asia, or just doing like kind of montage-y travel videos. But I want to start giving you guys like some travel tips. I've got, I think, a lot to share. I hope that these are helpful. I hope that I can offer you something that maybe you haven't read already on the internet or seen in another YouTube video. So let's do it. Here is how I save money while I'm traveling. So the first thing I do is I set a budget for myself. I decide before I leave for my trip, like how much I'm gonna spend for that trip. If I'm going to multiple countries, I will like break it down into how much I'm gonna spend in each country, because maybe like, for instance, I went to Japan and the Philippines and parts of Southeast Asia like Vietnam, Cambodia, and I knew that I was going to spend more in Japan than I was going to spend in Cambodia. So that was obviously like the budgets were different. So yeah, have in your mind how much you're going to spend, and make sure that when you add up the budgets for all those different places, that they actually equal less than the money that you have in your bank account or that you plan to spend on your trip, because you want to make sure you have money left over for any kind of accidents or emergencies or situations where like you might go over budget. So that's my first tip. My second tip is, once you know your budget and once you start traveling, you should be either writing it down, which is what I prefer to do. I like to like write down at the end of every day what I've spent. I'll keep receipts. It can be a bit of a pain, but if you're really trying to stick to a budget, it is like one of the best ways to make sure that you're not spending too much, or to pay attention to the fact that, oh, like, I'm actually not spending that much at all. I could buy a few more souvenirs, or I can afford to go on this tour that I was planning on going on. So that's a really good way to keep track of like staying on budget. The other thing that you can do, which I sometimes do on shorter trips, is to take out the amount of cash that I plan to have as my budget. I know that makes some people uncomfortable carrying all that cash, but to be honest, it's never bothered me that much. Like if you're going somewhere like Australia or even through Southeast Asia, like for me, I felt perfectly safe carrying around like a couple of $100s. And yeah, and that way you know, like as you spend the money, this is how much you have left of your budget, because it's in your wallet or tucked into your backpack or wherever you want to keep it. So you know, once you spent it, that's it, your budget's done. Number 3 way to save money while you're traveling is to stay places for longer. So stay somewhere for a week instead of going to a new place every single day, because the more you're moving around, the more money you're spending on transportation, the more money you're spending on different accommodation, the less likely you are to be able to find the cheapest places over a longer period of time. It's also a really great way to get to know somewhere a bit better. For me personally, like that's the way that I've always enjoyed traveling. I'm not like a boom, boom, boom kind of girl. Yeah. So number 4, if you are going to move around, use slow modes of transportation. So take buses or trains instead of taking airplanes. So the slower the mode of transportation, the cheaper it's going to be. The more convenient it is, the more expensive it's going to be. If you have the time, definitely take the slow transportation. It's always going to be cheaper. Plus, it's sometimes a really fun adventure. When we were in Thailand, we took a slow train across the country instead of flying from Laos to Bangkok. We took a train, and it was so fun. It took probably the whole day. I think like we got on the train at maybe 9 a.m. and we got into Bangkok at like 10 or 11. But it was so much fun. Every stop, like people got on with food. We had like barbecued chicken, sticky rice, Thai tea. It was, and people were so nice. Like we just had a really great time. So in addition to saving you money, it's also kind of like a whole adventure in itself. So number 5 way to save money is to house sit. I've done house sitting a little bit. We spent a month in Denmark, just outside of Copenhagen, and we spent 2 weeks in Paris in this amazing suburb, which I cannot pronounce properly. And we looked after cats and dogs. We walked the dogs, fed both of the animals, and looked after the house. Sometimes we had plants to water, and for the $120 that you pay, we use trusted house sitters. $120 that you pay for the year. I mean, if you house sit every month, you're house sitting and you're spending nights places for so cheap. I worked it out that the 6 weeks we spent traveling around Europe, we spent $2.80 a night. That is so cheap. I mean, we never would have been able to afford to travel in Copenhagen so much if it wasn't for house sitting. So if you're looking to go places that are maybe a bit more expensive, especially Europe, parts of the UK, the US, Australia, New Zealand, there are so many opportunities on trusted house sitters. I'll put a link down below. I've got a 20% discount that you guys can use for your first year. Definitely give it a try. It's so much fun, especially if you love animals. Number 6 is to eat street food. Find the cheap food. Find where the locals are eating. Eat food on the street. If it makes you nervous or you're worried you're gonna get sick, I mean, everybody's different. Sometimes I eat things and I feel fine, and people that I'm traveling with get like upset stomachs. It's really like how your body reacts to things. So you're either gonna get sick or you're not. But my top tips for street food are to go where places are busy because the food turnover is going to be high. Go places where they're cooking things fresh to order, so it's being cooked and it's not been sitting. And just try things, see what you like, see what you don't like. But it's the best way to eat cheaply. Besides the next option, which is to cook all your meals. So if you're staying somewhere like in an Airbnb or house sitting, being able to go grocery shopping is so much fun in another country, but also it's a really great way to save money. Obviously eating out in countries like, the US, Australia, I mean, I've mentioned them all. Even in Japan, we stayed in an Airbnb and we cooked a little bit. It's so cool to find new ingredients that you've never used before. I mean, you can just Google recipes, how to use miso or whatever you find in the grocery store. That again, cheap and adventurous. Another way is to walk. It's my favorite way to save money. It's my favorite way to travel around a new city or a small town. Being able to walk around and get lost. Obviously safety permitting, always make sure you kind of understand the precautions of where it is you're going. But for me, walking is such a great way to stay fit while you're traveling because you're going to eat lots of street food. To see a place and all the local shops and neighborhoods, and to save money. It's excellent. Another way to save money is to haggle for things that you're buying. So not just souvenirs, obviously, but haggle for food at markets if you're going to a covered market or something. Haggle for hostels or hotels if you're going to be staying for a couple of nights. It's totally acceptable in most places to ask for a small discount on the nightly rate. We did that a lot in Vietnam. I've even done it in parts of Europe. Just be friendly, smile, be polite, and kind of gauge how that other person is feeling about the haggling situation. And you should definitely be able to get yourself a bit of a discount. Another way to save money, which some people agree with, some people don't, is to take overnight transportation. So we did this a lot in Vietnam especially. If you're going to go somewhere anyway and it's quite far from where you already are, you may as well take an overnight bus, especially if you're trying to save lots of money, because you're not gonna then obviously have to pay for a night's accommodation in a hostel or hotel. And by the time you get to the place, it's the next day and you can start your adventure. The sleep isn't the best. Probably there are some of the worst sleeps that I've ever had traveling. But again, it's an adventure, it's a story to tell, and it's a way to keep you on the road longer because it is so cheap. Look for combination tickets. By that I mean transportation bundles. So the Eurorail pass, or Japan has the JR pass. Australia has Greyhound bus tickets that you can do hop on, hop off. Vietnam has what's called the open bus. So basically you're paying for either a period of time or a distance traveled, and you can use that ticket up to however many times you purchase it for. But it's usually a way to cheaply travel long distances or to be able to see lots of places. using either a bus or a train, and it's a great way to save money on transportation. I highly recommend, especially in Japan. We saved so much money. Transportation in Japan is so expensive, and we got to ride on one of the fast bullet trains, which was really cool. One of my other suggestions is about paying attention to your bank and bank fees and money exchange fees. A lot of people say that they're gonna bring US dollars or euros or pounds or wherever you're from. You're gonna bring that with you and exchange it there. Don't do that. You'll lose money on it. You're carrying cash around in a currency that isn't even from the countries you're going to. For me, the best and cheapest way to handle money abroad is to withdraw money with your card in that country that you're going to at an ATM. It's the best exchange rate. Call your bank before you leave, whether it's a credit card or a debit card, and see if they have any international partners. A lot of banks have partners in other countries so that you can use those ATMs and you won't be charged by your bank or the international bank. Look up, if you're American, I use Citibank, right? So you can take out money from Citibank in any country in the world. I also use Capital One, and Capital One doesn't charge any fees for international use, so it might just be the other company, the other bank, that charges you a fee. So that's good to know. A lot of people talk about Charles Schwab. They reimburse you for your ATM fees. Do your research. If you're gonna be traveling for a long period of time, and in a lot of different currencies, it'll be so valuable to you to spend a little bit of time finding out what banks are best for you in the country that you live in, and will cost you the least amount of money, because ATM fees add up so quickly. Bring a filtered water bottle. Oh, I wish I had started doing this so much sooner, you guys. They're so much better for the environment, obviously, but also if you've ever spent a bit of time traveling around and buying water bottles all the time. I mean, even I live in Mexico, you can't drink the tap water. You have to constantly buy water bottles, big jugs of water, if you want to drink water or have coffee or make tea. So I bought what's called a Life Straw Go bottle. It's just a filter water bottle, and it has saved me so much money on plastic bottles. And I no longer am adding to the piles of plastic in landfills, which makes me really happy. I will put a link to it below. I really recommend it. They last for a year's worth of drinking, 1,000 liters. So yeah, definitely get onto that. Another thing I recommend is looking into flying into alternate airports. So if you're looking to fly to London because you want to spend a couple of weeks or some time in London, but you're finding that the cost to fly to London is quite expensive, look to fly to Manchester, to fly to Doncaster. Anyway, look to fly into alternate airports in that country that are not too far away, a couple of hours away, and then check how much it will cost to take a train or a bus to the place that you actually want to go. I know it's a little bit of hassle. If your vacation's only short, I get it. You just want to get there and have fun. But if you're trying to save money, flying into smaller airports or flying into airports that maybe aren't as popular can be, you can save hundreds of dollars. The UK, parts of Europe, they have mega buses, which are, €1. They have trains, which are much cheaper to travel on. So yeah, that's a big one. Always look for nearby airports that you can fly into. Travel with people, travel with friends, travel with people you meet along the way. It's such a great way to save money. You can divide the cost of rental cars, hotel rooms, Airbnb places, food. It's an amazing, amazing way to save money. And my last tip is to talk to people along the way. So for instance, we were traveling from Hanoi to Saigon, and while we were traveling down, we met people who were traveling up. So it's a great thing to do to chat to people about how much they paid for things, what they did, whether they could haggle. So I found that most people, so long as you're already having a conversation and you're having a few beers and whatever, people are quite open about how much they've spent on things, especially because they want to know how much you've spent on things. So yeah, chat to people along the way, make friends, socialize, you know, have a great time, and you will save so much money. I hope these tips were helpful for you. If you have other questions about traveling long term, let me know in the comments about saving money, about anything, any of the things that I mentioned, just general chit chat. Ask me in the comments, and I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope to make tons more. Thanks guys, see you next time.